Welcome, everyone, to Bet What Happens Live. We are at the 2-minute warning of the New Orleans Saints versus the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. Jaguars lead 14-3. It is 4th and 5 for the Saints, if I have everything correct here. So, Grant, what do you think so far of this game?
I mean, for my bets, it's not going great. But, I mean, I have no idea what the Saints are thinking. Literally just put Alvin Kamara 4 yards ahead, have him turn around and pass him the ball over and over
and over. Yeah.
It really does not make too much sense to me, but hey, they probably know more than I do. But, I mean, it's an interesting game. Jacksonville's clearly outplayed them by a lot. It's just a spot where that fumble was not great. And also the Saints actually going for it pretty much every single time has been pretty solid.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. But overall, it's not quite going the way. Calvin Ridley's just kind of not there. I don't
pretty much
know why.
Has been non-existent in the target department so far, but he's been playing on all the snaps. So it's just one of those things. I think eventually the targets will come back around, especially if this game stays within a relatively, decent score line. 14-3, we could potentially see points on the board here for the Saints. So I still think there's going to be plenty of Calvin Ridley usage to come.
It'll be interesting to see if they go for the field goal or actually go for it. It's 4th down, right?
Yeah, 4th down and 5 here at the 2-minute warning. The Saints have the ball on Jacksonville's 17-yard line. The safer play, of course, is to take the field goal, make it a technically one-possession game, an eight-point game, as you would kind of get close to heading into halftime here. But there's still 2 minutes left, so Jacksonville has the chance to extend the lead here.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw a bet in right now. Calvin Ridley over 22.5 receiving yards, -110 over at DK. Just
Calvin Ridley. Yeah, over 22.5 receiving yards at DraftKings. I like that one a lot. We have value on that one for sure. So Calvin Ridley over 22.5 receiving yards at DraftKings is our first bet for Bet What Happens Live. We have a median of 26, especially knowing that they're going to get the ball right back now.
What's the kick field goal? What's the model say about Evan Ingram rest of the game? He's currently sitting at 24. The total's sitting at 42.5 for receiving yards.
Evan Ingram, rest of game, he has, let me scroll down here. 22 rest of game to add on to what'd you say he has currently?
24, so that puts him at 46. I'm going to take the over at 42.5, -115 over at Barstool.
There we go. So over 42.5 receiving yards on Evan Ingram as well.
Do I want to add the over on receptions? This is
there you go. So over 42.5 receiving yards on Evan Ingram. And we're going over 22.5 receiving yards on Calvin Ridley so far to kick Bet What Happens Live off right away, firing with two
and I'm
bets
also going the over on Evan
overs.
Ingram over 4.5 receptions +120.
Grant has come out firing over 4.5 receptions +120 on Evan Ingram. We're not showing too much overvalue, but we do have 1% edge technically on that one based off of our live model. So over 4.5 receptions for Evan Ingram, over 42.5 receiving yards, and over on Calvin Ridley, 22.5 receiving yards. So Grant has come out immediately firing on Bet What Happens Live.
Yeah, what's the model say for Lawrence passing yards? I, for some reason, don't have the model up in front of me because I'm a dum-dum.
Trevor Lawrence passing yards looks like we have around 220. A little under 220.
Just went off the board. It was at 212, so that would have been nice to get there, but now it's probably going to come on the board, if it even does, at 224 would be my guess for that 10-yard reception going out of bounds real quick. Yeah, it just went off the board again. 220. I'm hitting it. if it'll let me.
So
All right,
Trevor
well,
Lawrence. Yeah,
I'm
Grant
way
has come
too
out
heavy.
firing.
Yeah,
So Trevor Lawrence, Grant, what was the number you just bet?
225.
225. You took the over or
Or
the
sorry,
under?
220.5 rather.
220.5, and you took the over on that?
Yep.
Yep, which correlates with all the other receiving bets that you have just made. Evan Ingram
grab.
just getting
That's
the catch right there. So that is good for you. And that also, of course, is more yardage for Lawrence as well. You get the receiving yards in Ingram, you get the reception on Ingram. So all of those things looking really good. Grant has absolutely come out just firing right off the bat here. And yeah, I mean, a whole bunch of bets right here at the start of this show. But hey, Jags have the ball right now. They've been able to move the ball pretty well overall. Like if we look just so far at this game, the Jags have moved, have 181 yards of total offense, and that's despite having 2 fumbles, where they've had essentially less possessions by the fact that they had a return, a muff punt, technically fumble, and then Kurt had a fumble, so they could potentially have even more yardage here. So the Jags have been moving the ball nicely.
Yeah. No, it's looking pretty solid right now for the Jags. I mean, it's always tough against the Saints, but they've been really solid outside of that missed or that punt fumble on the punt. I don't know why the phrase is not getting to me. It's been really solid, and yeah, Lawrence just keeps driving here. This is beautiful. Looking at other lines. Kamara 29.5. Is that right? I think might not be updating. Kamara is not on the board right now. But I'm trying to look at the Saints side since this is all. If you're going to try and place a bet on the Jags, you're going to have a rough time unless you time it perfectly. Interesting here. I want to hear what the model has to say about it. Michael Thomas over 32.5 receiving yards. He's been targeted a few times, just hasn't actually caught it. Going to be passing the second half. I mean, Derek Carr is sitting at 258.5 for his live line. So it's an interesting little prop at 32.5, 31.5 over on FanDuel. Shahid has not done a ton. He's sitting at 27.5. I'm almost tempted to hit the under there, even though I have his overall game over. That number seems a little bit high.
At 30.5, you said?
32.5. It's down now. 28.5.
20. Okay, yeah. So Rashid Shaheed, we have his average at 30, but that means his median is much lower because he's a deep ball player. So his median is going to be much lower than that. I am just scrolling over here. Looks like we have his median right around 24.5.
All right. Probably some edge on the under. I'm going to stay away from that because I don't want to have a reverse middle like I did on Monday and just hit in the middle by 1 yard. Yeah, that was not fun.
No.
Yeah.
So we have a minute 33 left in the half, and the Saints are down 14-6. They will start with the ball in the second half, I believe. Let me just real quick click back over. So the Jags started with the ball. They scored on that very first drive of the game. They scored a touchdown. So the Saints will start with the ball in the second half. And given we're in 4th and 2, there's a solid chance they get the ball back right here as well.
Nope.
Or not.
Wow.
Whoa.
Did not see that one coming.
No, not at all. As we say that, incredible. So the Jaguars retain a possession on a fake punt here, and continue to have the ball, but there's still a chance the Saints get the ball back prior to the end of the half. It's just less likely now for sure. So there's a little trickery there by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, no, that was impressive here. We'll see. Hopefully just a few passes to Ingram, just go ahead and there's
another one, Ingram. Yep.
Gosh, I'm feeling real good about my bets right now. Came out firing super hot, slowed down, and then Yeah. Let's see.
So 46 seconds left in the half. There is a timeout here by the New Orleans Saints, I believe. Oh no, that was the first timeout for the Jaguars. So first timeout for the Jaguars. So each team now has 2 timeouts remaining. And we do have, like I said, 46 seconds left in the half. Jaguars are around 80% on the money line. So that, just want to keep that in mind as well, that, it looks like going into the second half, the Saints are going to be passing about 5-6% more than pregame expectations, while the Jags will be passing around 5 or 6% less than pregame expectations.
Yeah. So an interesting prop out there, Taysom Hill over 8.5 rushing yards. Obviously the Saints being down is not going to help anything. They're probably going to be more prone to throw the ball, but it's an interesting spot because they aren't down by that much. They're down 1 score right now. Jags most likely getting a field goal here. We'll see. Could be a touchdown, could be nothing. They could miss it. But overall, it's not that far out of reach, especially considering the Saints get the ball at the beginning of the second half. They haven't looked great, but second halftime adjustments could actually help them out here. They're probably going to rely less on running the ball in Kamara because they really haven't ran the ball well. I mean, outside of Derek Carr, who's run the ball well, they've got, 13 carries for 32 yards.
Yep.
Oh, that's a pick. All right.
Wow. Okay. So things change. All of a sudden, Trevor Lawrence throwing an interception. Saints ball, 34 seconds left in the half, and they're going to get the ball back to start the second half. So it might be time to hit some Saints overs.
Yeah. By the way, Evan Ingram, did we get it 42.5 or 41.5?
42.5.
That's what I thought. That's actually exactly.
He's right at 42. He needs 1 more yard. Feeling okay
gosh.
about that.
I've lost so many by the hook this year. We'll see if I'm almost certain he's going to get one, especially after that interception there. But it's always
there might be a question about whether that was an interception or not. Did that point of the ball move? It's pretty close. So we're gonna have a review here for sure on that Lattimore potential interception. The point of the ball hit the ground. It's just a question now of whether it was still under control that whole time, or whether the ball hitting the ground helped him maintain control.
Yeah, I don't know. By the way,
it's a tough one.
It's funny nowadays. I don't think I can name 5 punters' names, which is incredible because I used to be able to name everyone on the field. It just, you don't really look into that too much for gambling. Didn't know Logan Cook was the punter for Jacksonville. Always fun. But yeah, looking at other lines right now, Derek Carr's passing line. If this gets called back, even if it doesn't get called back, 244.5 is probably where it should be. Model, I'm sure, is probably right about at that.
Model's at and we're just gonna have to kind of figure out where things stand. There's 34 seconds. It's all gonna depend on whether this is obviously their ball or not, but Model's at 255.
All right, so a little bit of value on the over there. I've already got his over at 239.5. I don't know why I kept moving down pregame, but that was a solid line.
Incomplete pass, so it's still Jaguars ball, but it is fourth down.
Yeah, Carr is passing our prop. Strangely enough, went up. You got a decent ARB situation. It looks like 259 over at DK, 248.5 over at FanDuel. So that's a pretty drastic difference right there.
Yeah, definitely an interesting one. So it is overturned. The call has been overturned back to well, here's an interesting question in chat. What about Derek Carr pass attempts? He has 21 right now. We're projecting rest of game for Derek Carr to have 21. So that would be 42 total for the game.
Yeah, the line sitting at 42.5.
Yeah, so not a whole bunch of value there. I'd rather go with the yardage there, especially knowing there could be some chunk plays to close out the half here.
Yeah. Yeah. Do I want it? Yeah, 250. Now the line's up to 252.5. Both books kind of figured it out. Yeah, it's always interesting Now it's at 270.5. Wow. It really
It just bloated up. Yeah, I was gonna say it just bloated up. And all of that simply because they just get the ball back. But yeah, a little weird. So now we can't really take his over on his passing yards either because that just inflated by so much. So
yeah, it's
might need to look elsewhere on that one.
Yeah, it's 260.5 over on FanDuel, which I still don't quite love that. We probably should have taken the over at 244.5, but
yeah,
you know what? Live and learn. If I would have had I not had money on it already, but it's going to be in 160 to 170. I'm tempted to take I might actually take the under at 270.5. I'm going to take the under at 270.5.
Yeah, I think the under on that makes a lot of sense. There's potential they just end up kneeling this down anyway. I don't think they do, but there's the possibility, and we're showing around 255 as his live projection.
That's actually at -108 on the under, which is wild.
Yeah, we got to take under 270.5. So we're going Derek Carr under 270.5 passing yards. Absolutely got to take that one. I did like the over 244, but 270 is way too much.
Yeah.
There will be
especially like people think about that too much, like, oh, that's 26 yards. That's a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal. Well, you're talking about 24 yards in the second half, not the full game, the second half. And Granny's he's just gonna get sacked here and he's gonna fumble and that line see if they even get another playoff. No, they've got timeouts. I figured out. Yeah, all right. We got a decent amount of bets in. I'm feeling good. Let's look at rushing. ETN is sitting at 67.5, sitting at 30 right now for the game, 65.5 over on Barstool. So 35.5 second half of the game, they're up a decent amount. Yes, they're not getting the kickoff, but still should have the possession. Probably going to run the ball a little bit later in the game. Pre-game projection, I think, was at 64.5. So he's not too far off of that, and positive game script. 65.5 kind of seems a little low to me.
We have exactly 65 for a median.
All right.
Well, so we're right in line with the market there on that one. But we are at halftime of this one. So a little lucky there. We survived, just taking that under 270.5. We just survive all that all of a sudden in terms of the Derek Carr under passing yards because he got none. Right. So that definitely changes things. And it definitely changes the fact that the Saints didn't drive the ball at all there. Changes the live market to where it's even a little bit less likely that New Orleans comes back and wins this. So just averaging across some books here, looks about 80-20 for the Jacksonville Jaguars to win. Real quick, I do want to talk about pace splits. When the Jaguars lead, these teams combine for about 2.5 to 3 seconds faster per play than average of when there is a multiple score lead in the NFL. So still could be a little bit of tendency towards some overs on this one as well.
All right, let's look at some touchdown bets because there's one immediately just staring me right in the eye, and that's Calvin Ridley, plus 750 right now. Pre-game line was sitting at 220, 200, depending on where you were at. Plus 750 on FanDuel, and it's gone. No, it's back up. What's the model say about that? Because that might have to be at least a quarter unit bet, I think. Same with Christian Kirk sitting at plus 700.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So Calvin Ridley, we have around plus 690 for anytime touchdown. But again, Jacksonville's not starting the ball, so we probably want to adjust that to like 7.25. So there might be some thin value at plus 750.
All right. What about Kirk and Ingram?
Very similar for Kirk as to Ridley in terms of anytime touchdown value. And Ingram, we have around plus 825. It's just, we're at the spot here. It's at plus 1,000. Okay. I like it. I like it at plus 1,000 at FanDuel for sure. But right now, of course, the Jaguars, it is over to the second half. They don't start with the ball. We have them passing about 10% less than their pregame projection, which was around 60%. So we're projecting them to pass about half the time the rest of the game, which I think is interesting. They're ahead by 11, but the Saints start with ball. The Saints could close this right back up. So I do think there's some value on some Jaguars pass catchers here.
Yeah. I'm rolling with a quarter unit on Ingram plus 1,000. You rolling with me?
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Quarter unit, Evan Ingram, 10-1 anytime touchdown scorer. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if the Saints close this back up. It's one of those maybe we could have waited on, for that first drive, see if New Orleans starts driving the ball. But at the same time, New Orleans was the pregame favorites. They, these games do tend to rubber band as well a little bit. Teams get a little more lax, not lax in a bad way, but more just like cautious in terms of like their defensive coverage. So it becomes a situation where these games will often rubber band back towards what the pregame line would be. So I'm totally fine with Evan Ingram 10-1 for a touchdown.
Model, what does it say about Alvin Kamara receiving yards? Currently sitting at 78.5 over on fan. No, just went down. It's sitting at 85.5. I'm going to see if FanDuel pops it back up here. 85.5. He's currently sitting at 60 right now, so 25.5.
With 82 median. 82 median.
82 median. All right, we'll see if FanDuel pops it back up here at any point. Because I feel like just the way they're using him, the amount of volume he's getting, what's his receptions prop at? Because that's another interesting one that is not on the board over at FanDuel. Checking DK, not on the board there, but it would be. It's blacked out at 10.5. He's currently sitting at 7.
Yeah, we have 3.1 rest of game average receptions for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I feel like, I generally trust the model, but the clear scheming to get Kamara the ball in space is just wild. And
yeah, so. Exactly. I liked his over pregame. And we talked about that, you and I did before we went on air, that I liked his over pregame. So I don't mind this at all, especially knowing they're trailing by so much. I just wonder if the books have also adjusted for the scheming, and if that isn't potentially going to change in the second half as the Saints trail by 11. Can they continue to afford to just these short passes over the middle to Kamara, wasting a bunch of time?
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting, but kind of goes how the first. We can keep an eye on it through the first drive, because realistically, like if they score on the first drive, then they're probably going to keep dumping the ball off to Kamara over and over again, like they have been. Not really worrying about wasting time.
Here's some bets I want to look at. So interception props. Derek Carr, we have about 2-1 at even money, and Trevor Lawrence 3.5-1. Not even money, but Derek Carr, fair odds, I should say, 2-1, and Trevor Lawrence at 3.5-1 at fair odds for interceptions. So if you see anything better than that out there, whether you're in chat
Trevor
or
Lawrence
anything like
3.5-1,
3.5-1 for an interception.
Yeah, it's sitting at 270, 280, 262.
Yeah, so
Derek
not
Carr,
quite
you
there.
said what, 220?
2-1.
So he's currently on the under at draft Barstool is -160.
Interesting. I like the under there actually, because 2-1 fair, it would be on both sides. So we do have under value on his interception prop at you said -160? Yeah, we would definitely have about 40 cents to the dollar value there on Derek Carr's under on his interceptions. Now they are starting with the ball, so we may want to mentally adjust that, but definitely showing a little bit of undervalue there.
Yeah, I was about to hit it and then just moved. -170, -166. I think I'm still going to take it at -166.
Yeah, DraftKings has a -166. So we're going to go Derek Carr under half an interception, -166 at DraftKings. That one gets me smiling. I love interception props. I've been doing a bunch of interception props this year, and I've pretty much only taken overs when quarterbacks have been really lucky to avoid interceptions. But in this case, I definitely want to take an under on Derek Carr, half an interception.
Yep. I like it. I don't think I've placed an under interception prop in
a long time. It's been a while.
At least a year.
It's been a while for sure. But I love it. I think that's a fun one. And it's one we're going to have to sweat because the Saints will be throwing. Our model is adjusting for the fact that the Saints will be throwing about 7% more than their pregame expectation. They are starting with the ball. The game could be a little bit faster than typical for a game in this situation, but still showing value to the under on Derek Carr interception. So it's gonna be a fun one to sweat. We'll see if that ends up being a total disaster or not.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting because he only has 3 interceptions on the year, 200 pass attempts. I mean, we assume 20 pass attempts in the second half for him. So, I mean, realistically, is there a 5% chance or more, or rather a 7% chance when you adjust for juice of him throwing it on all of his passes? Likely not. He's a solid quarterback. I mean, granted, over on the Raiders with McDaniel's coach, he did not do well, but prior to that, he was pretty good at not turning the ball over too much. First 7 years in the league, I think he averaged about 10 per year, and that was off of 550, 600 throws most years. So he's not really a huge interception guy. His interception rate's low, so I could potentially see him.
Definitely.
I see value on that.
I'm looking at his bad ball rate. Bad ball is basically 1 out of every 5 bad balls in the NFL are intercepted. Look at his bad ball rate, and it's pretty close to league average. So I'm not too worried about like a really high interception rate here for him or anything like that. So given the fact that we're already halfway through the game, I definitely still think there's value at that -166 that we did take.
Looking at other bets, looking at lines up there. No one really wants to bet -200 stuff. So
no, we already bet a -166, so I think we're feeling good on the negative money side of things, the minus money side. I see some interesting ones here in chat. Evan Ingram's up to 11-1 at some places for anytime touchdown, but 6.5 receptions for Kirk. Now, right now he has 5 for 46 yards.
It's heavy juice. It's -160 on the over, but that does seem a little bit off.
Yeah, we have 2.1 rest of game for Kirk. So let me pull this up here, and he has, what did we say now? 5. So that would be 7.1. There's just probably almost no value at -160. Yeah, we're looking at, I just pulled up on the prop tool. No value on the over at that juice, because that would be his average would be 2.1. So often there's gonna be a bunch of 0s and 1s, but occasionally there's gonna be like a 3 or 4 or 5, which is pulling that average up. But the median is going to be lower than that.
Yeah, no, and I mean it's -154 over at Caesars, but I still don't think that's really enough. Michael Thomas, 0 receptions. I guess I'd be looking more at the under, which isn't great value, but 0 receptions in the first half, 3.5 is his total, +135 juice on the over, +140 juice depending on where you get it, -175 to 180 in most spots. It's a little interesting.
Let me check a bet here. Actually, I'm using our player prop tool, of course. Trevor Lawrence has no passing touchdowns right now. There's -230 to the under 1.5. And we're showing 17% value on that. That's pretty ridiculous. No, like you said, nobody likes betting a -200, but I'm going to bet it. I'm ballsy enough to bet Trevor Lawrence under 1.5 touchdowns at -230. You don't have to sell me, but that is a pick for me. I'm definitely taking that one. When we're showing a bunch of juice there, the Jags are not starting with the ball this half, and we're just showing a tremendous amount of value there. So that's -230 at DraftKings. You don't have to pay it. I have no problem paying juice. I'm a guy who bet -350 on Floyd Mayweather to not get knocked down versus Conor McGregor, for example. I have no problem betting really heavily juice lines if I'm showing value.
Yeah, I had had money on that. That was a fun.
That was a fun fight.
I mean, especially when you had a lot of money on it.
Let me check some rushing props. Oh, he's grayed out there, blacked out, grayed out, whatever you want to call it for Taysom Hill. I was looking at his rushing yards, but it's grayed out. Definitely would be curious about that. If that was up anywhere else.
Interesting one here. I think
it's 7.5 at FanDuel. It's at 7.5 at FanDuel, and he already has 6. Like, we kind of just have to take that over, right?
So Trevor Lawrence over 0.5 passing touchdowns, plus 143 over at Bet Rivers, under at Barstool minus 125, now minus 130.
Yeah, so ARB situation there, right?
Yeah, do you see value on either side of that at 0.5?
We have him for around what is it, 0.6 passing touchdowns rest of game. So yeah, I don't necessarily see any value on the over there.
At plus 143?
Yeah, because again, that's average, right? So a lot of times there's gonna be some zeros, and then occasionally there's gonna be like a 2. So
there's got to be value on either the
close.
over or the under here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying, I think there. I'll just do.
They just took it off the board. You're good. Yeah, I think the value was on the over, to be honest.
I just haven't had a chance to calculate it yet because it's not one I normally have my sheet set up for here.
That's entirely fair.
I have him 54% to stay under a touchdown. So we are starting in the second half here. But yeah, I'm 58% to stay under a touchdown, a passing touchdown.
So that's right about 143. So realistically, probably some value on the under at minus 130 over at Barstool.
Yeah, it's really close, so it's tough to say. But what did you think about Taysom Hill over? It's now 8.5 at FanDuel. I liked the over 7.5 rushing yards. He already's at 6.
Yeah, I kind of thought about hitting that. I'm gonna stay away. I can never get Taysom Hill right, but if I had to lean, it would be over 8.5.
Makes sense. So
Olave.
Yeah. There's Olave making a grab. Anything else we want to look at before we sign off here, since we are starting this second half?
Nah, I think we're good. I mean, like pretty much all the Kamara receiving props are blacked out. Otherwise, that was going to be something. His receptions prop is blacked out pretty much everywhere. So probably just staying away. I think that now we got pretty much everything we need. Got some good bets. Just need one more Evan Ingram catch, and overall, it shouldn't be too bad of a night.
There we go. All right. So that is going to do it for this Bet What Happens Live between the Jaguars and the Saints. We'll be back for Monday Night Football. As always, Grant and I will be back then. Good luck with your bets, everybody, and enjoy the game.